Have you ever been in a situation where you've kind of been holding something in and there's a difficult conversation that you know you need to have or you're going to have, and as soon as you start thinking about it, you immediately get like butterflies in your stomach and you feel nervous. You can feel your heart even beating against your chest, and often they don't go well, do they? You end up either not saying what you wish you had, and you remember later on, oh, I should have said this, like it would have been so great if I'd made this epic comeback, or you forget to make a really good point, or you just completely don't get to say anything at all, and you're just rolled over in this difficult conversation. We've all been there. I've been there many times, and I'm sure I will be in the future too. But how do you deal with that? What are some of the best ways to handle difficult conversations, especially when the stakes are really, really high? And it's either with your romantic partner, it's at work, it's to your employees if you're a boss and you're a CEO like me, or just something that, the stakes are really, really high. Well, in this video, I'm going to share some proven techniques that I've learned through my own research over the last 10 years or so, through my own work and through my own experiences that have worked for me and many other people. So keep watching. Hey everyone, my name is Keshav. If this is the first video you've seen of mine, be sure to subscribe down below and ring the bell so you get notified when new videos come out. Now, there's really 4 steps to handling these difficult conversations. And the first and most important, and when I say this, it's going to seem obvious, but I'll be real, 90% of you do not do this. 90% of people do not do this. And it is to truly and actively listen. And there's 2 types of listening. The first type is passive listening, where your words are coming at you, but it's like whoosh, just appearing and disappearing into thin air. Like you really don't care about what they're saying, and they don't care about what you're saying. We've all been in situations like this, where you have something really important to you that you're trying to express, but the other person is not paying attention. And you can feel it while you're talking. So the first step is not to passively listen, but to actively listen. To really absorb, make that person feel just with your micro expressions in your face and your body language. Like internally, you should be thinking not about how you're going to reply. Like, okay, they said this is going to be my reply. Forget about that stuff. But just listen to what they're saying. Focus on them. Make them the most important person in the world. You will have your chance to reply. You will have your chance to correct, to share, whatever it might be, but just listen actively. And a really good test for knowing you've listened properly and understood is clarify. So when they're finished talking, repeat back to them word for word what they've said. Like this. So, what I'm understanding is, and keep your voice neutral, keep your tone neutral. Don't try not to get emotional, because it really helps. If you raise your voice, if you get emotional too, it's just going to add more emotion. Whereas if you're calm and just centered. So what I'm understanding is, you didn't like it when I said this, and it made you feel like this. And a good measure for whether or not you've understood correctly is they'll say, yeah, that's right. That's exactly it. And for me personally, I try not to move ahead until I've got that acknowledged. I've got that green light that yes, they feel understood. Because often in these crucial, difficult conversations, especially when the stakes are high, when the emotions are running really high, your reasoning power decreases, and it's the same for the other person. And by making them feel understood, by understanding them and making sure you're on the same page, it just disarms everything. It just brings everything down by a notch. Imagine how effective that could be the next time you're having these difficult conversations and you have this power, this ability to just take the edge off slightly. Immediately the pressure goes down. Immediately it's not as intense, and you can just relax and speak from a place of ease. The third thing is to pay attention to cues as you're listening and you're verifying things. Find the thing behind the thing. What I mean here is, what is the subtext? What's going on beneath the surface? What is it that has really triggered them or triggered you? What is this really about? Is it really about you failing to call your girlfriend or boyfriend or your romantic partner back? Or is it about something deeper? Is it about they're stressed at work and they didn't get their deadline met and their boss was a prick? What is it about? Pay attention to that and then realize that it's something deeper. So it's not about the surface level thing. It's about some other thing that they're reacting to. Often we react not to the situation itself, but to our experience. So the mental movie that they're living in. So try to pay attention to those cues. When is it that in the conversation their voice breaks? Or they get really animated and upset and angry because they're focusing on one particular thing? Is, let's say you do all of that, but you're not sure how to respond. You're not sure what to say. The first step is always to acknowledge that. Say, I've listened to everything and I feel I've understood, but I'm not entirely sure. Can I have some time to think and reflect? And this does two things. One, it gives you some time to think, but two, it lets them know that you're really considering the topic of this conversation. And if you're talking about divorce, let's say, or you're talking about somebody not being happy in their job, that's a really important conversation. So you don't want to rush this. You want to take your time and let them know. I don't want to rush this. Tell them, look them in the eye. I really understand everything you're saying and I don't want to rush this. So is it okay with you if I take a couple of hours to really digest this and then we revisit this conversation later on? Because maybe it's not a good time to have this conversation right now. Maybe you're not feeling right. Maybe you've been triggered. Maybe you've become emotional. But just being able to have this ability to stop and not keep adding more petrol to the flames if this is an argument, for example. Or secondly, if you don't have an idea but you want to share, sometimes it's good to just think out loud. You don't need to have formulated a perfect rebuttal or response, because communication and conversation is about relating to another person. It's about building a connection and building trust where it is safe. It is safe for you to just be real. You don't need to show up perfectly, but however you show up, however vulnerably and authentically you show up is great. And those are the best kinds of relationships where you can just say, based on what you've said, and they can see that you're thinking out loud, that you're still forming thoughts. Based on what you've said, this is what I'm feeling right now. I'm really angry, I'm really upset, I'm really afraid, this is happening for me and this is what I'm thinking. How do you feel about that? And there you have a balanced equation. You're conversing, you're relating to one another. You're listening, absorbing, and then you're responding. You're not reactive. And often what happens in difficult conversations is this person says this and then this person says this, and you're trying to outwin each other. You're focused on trying to be right rather than understood or understanding. You listen to add answers, not ask questions. You listen not to understand, but to be understood. And that's incredibly selfish. It's not about just you, it's about the people in this conversation. So focus on that. And the final bonus tip is find the highest common good. If it's a relationship, go back to your values. If it's your family that you're speaking to, your mum, your dad, your uncle, your auntie, go back to that. Remind them, the most important thing for me in this company, in this family, is that we're honest with each other. And that we create an environment where we can be open and understood. And this is an opportunity to do that. So how can we use it to our advantage? Do you see what's happening there? You're reminding the other person. You're reminding the people in this conversation that this is where we are right now and we're reacting to this moment, but this is where we want to be. We're trying to move to some higher good. We're trying to focus on making this a powerful relationship, making this a groundbreaking baking. I'm not trying to bake cakes. A groundbreaking why do I keep doing that? A groundbreaking company where we're at the highest level. Because you don't watch videos like this if you don't care about those things, if you're not trying to attain some greater purpose or good. So bring it back to that. Remind yourself just by saying it out loud. You know, one of my values is conviction, is taking responsibility and ownership for things. And right now I feel really emotional, angry, like I'm not clear. So what do you think? Let's talk about that. So then the conversation diverts from, you know, talking about the situation, this one moment where it's getting emotional, where it's getting difficult, and thinking about, well, you know, things haven't been going well for you in the company recently. Well, let's take a step back. It's a great way to start that when you're trying to get into this common good. Just start with, let's take a step back. What are we trying to achieve here? What are you trying to achieve here? What's the most important thing? You join this company because in 10 years' time, you want to become an astronaut. You want to become a trendsetter in this industry. How can you do that? And immediately the focus becomes greater. You're looking at the bigger picture. And that's so often what happens is relationships are destroyed because we become reactive. We start thinking about ourselves. We start thinking about the wrong or right that haven't or have been done to us. And it becomes about this lower self. When we calm down and we think through, and 6 months later we realize, well, actually, this is the bigger picture. So let me invoke that right away. Let me just sidestep all of this drama, all of the noise, all the nonsense. What's the most important thing here? So tell me down below, you know, what are you going to use? What was the most useful part of what I've shared with you? How are you going to use it? And what problems do you see yourself making that you may have realized in the last 10 or so minutes? And most importantly, absorb what's useful, discard what isn't, and add what's uniquely your own. Absorb what they're telling you, share your part, and discard the stuff that's not that important. Because some stuff is unimportant and some stuff is the most important thing. So focus on the most important thing. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Peace. Let me know what your responses are in the comments down below. And as always, be sure to subscribe and ring that bell notification icon so you know when new videos like this have come out.